Well, and talking about feet on the floor, man, feet is the operative word at Colts Camp, it seems to be. How are your feet today?
My feet they're okay. I'm not getting out there running out and trying to avoid defensive ends and things like that. But yeah, I mean, there was that story yesterday from Chris Mortensen from ESPN, and according to his sources, things are looking pretty optimistic that the Colts, with Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson both trending. That's the operative word, trending on being available for week 1 of the regular season, which for both men is just that's incredible considering where they were 8 days and 7 days ago respectively here after their surgery. So pretty cool. I mean, both guys were sighted or spotted, I should say, out of practice on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And neither guy was seen, visibly in a walking boot or a cast or something like that. Neither guy had a limp. So the fact that they're out there at practice, on their feet, physically on their feet, watching for an hour and a half, 2 hours, close to it. I don't know how you don't look at that as a good sign. I mean, we're left to kind of read between the lines, and that's kind of what we do in the media and in sports. But again, visibly, I don't know how that cannot be viewed as a positive thing.
Absolutely. My question would be with Carson, with him being so new to everything, how is that? Even though he comes back, he's really behind, I would think, offensively, in getting in tune with the offense. That would seem to be a little bit of an issue.
Well, it's certainly not ideal. Not when you're talking about a quarterback last year that had a down season, coming off a bad year with his team, has new teammates, new skill players, somewhat to a degree, a new playbook. So it's not ideal that he's not going to be out there for training camp. He's not going to get the reps that you would get today and tomorrow in joint practices with the Carolina Panthers, and then in preseason games starting on Sunday with Carolina. But that being said, one of the things that the Colts liked about this move is that Carson Wentz is a known commodity. He has played very, very well in his career at points to this point. I mean, 2017, he was an MVP candidate, probably would have won the award had he not gotten injured and tore his ACL late in the season with the Eagles. So bottom line, he's not a draft pick. He's not a guy that you're projecting. You know who he is. You know that he can play on Sundays. That was a big reason why they made this move. And so, again, it's not ideal, but once he gets back and is healthy enough to play, hopefully it is week 1. I think from a mental standpoint, there won't be anything that he doesn't know. It's just about, kicking the rust off, so to speak, and just getting into game-like flow whenever he comes back. That's going to be the biggest issue. But Frank Reich, I thought put it best the other day when he was talking about, okay, hypothetically, if we don't have Wentz week 1 or those first couple of weeks, however it unfolds, nobody has to do superstar things because the roster itself is a superstar. The Colts have one of the best NFL rosters in the league. I mean, top to bottom, they don't have, dare I say, a hole on their roster. Obviously some parts of their roster are deeper than others, but depth has been something that this franchise under Chris Ballard has just been obsessed with since he took over in 2017. He's always preached that it's not about one guy. It can't be about the quarterback. And I know fans say, well, listen, if you don't have a franchise quarterback, you don't have a chance in this league. And so I get that to a degree, but the quarterback can't do everything. The defense still has to make some plays. They need to get some red zone stops. The kicking game has to pull their weight as well. So I think the Colts are built to navigate this if they have to navigate it, whether Wentz is out the first couple of weeks or he comes back week 1 and kind of finds his NFL sea legs, so to speak, on the fly.
Yeah, the Colts, they're as good as anybody as managing quarterback difficulties. They've had, unfortunately, the practice of doing it over the last few years. Other guys, Kwity Paye, what's the word on him?
Yeah, the Indy Star reported today that he has a sprained ankle, which is unfortunate because that came yesterday, and yesterday was a pretty light day in practice. So, it's just kind of the irony of, the lightest day in camp is when he suffers his injury, which is right next to, again, these joint practices that kick into gear today and tomorrow with Carolina. And, you certainly don't want to downplay anything that's happened to this point in camp because he's looked really, really good. But he has taken advantage, and really, for that matter, the entire Colts defensive line with their pass rushers have taken advantage of an offensive line that's been banged up. And so you got the first team defense going up against, guys who are 2 and 3 on the depth chart on the offensive line for the Colts. So you just wanted to see it today to see how it would translate against a starting offensive line for another team that hasn't seen the same place 4,000 times at this point through 12 practices. So I don't think it's going to stunt his growth per se, but man, you really wanted to see it for him as he develops and progresses as a rookie. And I think, you had a pretty good idea of what he was going to be capable of being drafted 21st overall out of Michigan. But these first couple of weeks of practice, you kind of had to recalibrate, what your expectations were for Kwity Paye, I think, because he looked that good. And it's just kind of a shame for him, again, from a developmental standpoint, that he's not going to get these really valuable and quality joint practice reps today and tomorrow.
One of the fan listeners, Ross Bonnell, just says, hit us up with the Colts just announced a full attendance. Masks are not required, but suggested. So full attendance, a full complement of fans in the stands this year, which I'm sure that they could certainly use.
Yeah, just incredibly exciting. I mean, as we get back to normalcy around the NFL, I mean, we've talked about it before where training camp's going on, and I would say 98% of camp looks normal. It's fans are there, and you don't have to wear a mask, and you don't have to, prove a vaccination test and things like that. Really, the only hiccup as far as normalcy, if you go back to 2019, the last time we did this in camp, the autographs, the fans can't get, intimately close to the players. But the Colts are doing a really cool thing to kind of compensate for that. They have stacks, they have thousands of these little mini Nerf footballs. And so the players sign these little mini footballs after practice and throw those into the stands after practice, which is kind of cool. So it still gives people a chance to get autographs and come home with a memento, a keepsake, so to speak, especially for the kids. It's all about the kids. So it's just cool that we're getting back to, a high sense of normalcy after last year, which was completely bizarre. And I just can't wait. I know it's a preseason game. I know they don't keep score. Well, they keep score, but the results don't necessarily matter. But man, I'm just excited to pour through the roster, go over my notes again, study and memorize the roster, and call a game, because it feels like January 9th, the last time the Colts played a football game, was 10 years ago. So I'm just chomping at the bit to get back to a stadium.